to Hardcore Metal Detecting Radio. If I can talk tonight, I got Derek and Craig here. We'll be talking about metal detecting and, well, all kinds of stuff. We usually just kind of let the show take the path that it wants, and we kind of follow around to see where it's going to lead to. But if you'd like to call in and join the conversation, you can call in at 352-504-4170. And if you're outside of the country or whatever, don't want to make an international call or something like that, you can get us at derek.asklar1. That's our Skype contact, and it should come through too. And that way, if you're in Europe or I don't know, wherever, Canada, Australia, or whatever like that, you don't have to pay the phone charges. Just use a computer. So, but other than that, I've been out there doing some detecting out there at the Toll Bridge property yesterday, and I was out there. I was telling Craig earlier about there 3 or 4 hours, and just bouncing around a little bit. I've hit 9 different spots, some out in fields, some along the Stagecoach Road. Man, I tell you, Craig, I just dug a ton of bullets and shotgun shells and the old paper rounds. Got a few more modern ones, but the only thing I got was two links of chain that were worn really bad, where they kind of connect. Like, it looks to me like it's for a wagon or stagecoach or something like that, because of where the wearing is. I did find a big 2-inch by 2-inch square nut that I don't know a lot about wagon parts. It could be up at wagon part, I'm not sure, or it could just be a tractor part or something like that. But it's not for lack of trying, man. I tell you, I use the Bliss tool and the Quest Pro, just switched off, back and forth, and I was finding stuff with both of them, but just nothing too extravagant. I just don't get it. But I think I got like some kind of voodoo thing going on with me over there or something. I talked to the landowner, or the land keeper, whatever you want to call him. He watches the property, and has had about an hour-long conversation with him, and I guess he's been dealing with all kinds of weird stuff going on in the middle of the night, and where it's at, it's like a mile off of any kind of main road. He does have the river right there. It's along the river, but I don't know, man, he's like weird stuff, like riding in his pickup truck, checking out the property in the middle of the night, and he'll be stopped, and he'll get out a little bit, look around, and look back, and his truck's rocking and stuff like that. It's real strange, and he's going back, and he says it feels like somebody's jumping hanging on the back of the pickup truck and jumping up and down on it. Weird stuff like that. It's freaking him out, actually. Felt kind of bad. He's an older guy, but he goes, I don't normally believe this. He goes, but there's just too many things. He goes, I'll hear conversations going on, and in the middle of the night, I'll get up and go out there and sit on the front porch, and he goes, and it all stops. I'll go back in and lay down. I'll start hearing it again. And I told him, I said, well, you do have the river right there, and it could be echoing down the river or whatever. But he's kind of convinced himself. He's been going through this for about, a year and a half now. Weird stuff going on, stuff getting moved, stuff that they put together because they restored the inside of the house, and they secured a beam on the front porch, and they put this thing in with these bolts. And while he walked through underneath that thing, he was standing there having his coffee in the morning. That thing broke and fell on the ground. It was like a 4x4, and it was bolted up there, and the bolt was sheared off. And he says, there's just no way that just breaks. I mean, it's just wood, and metal. So yeah, I've been kind of reassuring him a little bit. He's kind of getting freaked out a little bit, but but with that much history, Craig, you just never know. I mean, there was a lot of activity, a lot of stories, a lot of good and bad on that property, and with that bridge there and all the travelers that went through. And I guess it's not a far-fetched thing. If there was something going to be going on, it'd be going on there. So kind of, I told him, I said,
that's like my town's the same way. I've heard of all kinds of stories, the same one from about 3 or 4 different people about Confederate soldier, wanders up Main Street in the middle of the night and stuff, and I was like, man, I like to see it myself.
Oh, that's what I was telling him.
And this other house, I got permission to hunt. The lady took me on a tour, and then she said, "Oh, I didn't tell you, but there's a ghost here," and I just felt her presence. Mm-hmm. And then she moved away. She was probably checking to see who it was when it came in, and she said, "I've had a psychic here," and told me the story about the woman had been I guess in a chest, and the Yankees shot through the chest and killed her and her daughter, and it already killed the husband. So I guess the husband wanders the streets at at certain times of the year, and then the story about the woman is, I guess the psychics say that she's at peace with what happened. Yeah. But she's still in the house. And then next door in the Hoffman house, I think it's the woman's grandfather is in the house, and the psychic saw him and said he tipped his hat to him, standing by the fireplace, and he had his arm up on the mantle, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, that was where he always stood," and so that was pretty wild. But that house, they told me the other day that I knew there was a Confederate solid bolt that went through that house. Right. I even saw it, but there was also a cannonball that smacked the chimney and bounced off. So I've had a couple people say, how do you know that's a battlefield yard you got? Because I tell them about that, and then my neighbor had found half of a Confederate shell in his yard right behind me, and then we found a shinkle, probably about a third of a shinkle shell, that blew up in the air. So probably, I said there was bombs bursting in air in this area, I mean, that's just the way it was.
Well, I've been pretty open-minded to it myself with this kind of stuff over the years, and had some kind of really strange experiences and stuff like that. The one thing that, I'm kind of open-minded to it. I mean, it's like, bring it on. Let me experience some of this stuff. That he goes, well, everybody's going to think I'm crazy. Everybody's going to, I don't want to say nothing to nobody. He goes, I know that, you're into the history and you're trying to find stuff. And he goes, I just feel like I can talk to you. I'm like, that's fine, man. Tell me whatever. I want to know what's going on. I said, I've tried to do some EVP work there while I'm detecting. I had like a recorder set up. Just leave it on, and then I used the GoPro, and at one time was just set it on time lapse and just let it photo by the, I've set it up so it was photoing by the river in the house. Every minute or two it would take a photo on its own while I was out metal detecting wherever, just to see if I could catch anything. And just, it's just like a crapshoot during the day because there's so much ambient, birds singing and everything else. But you just never know if you're going to catch something. The only thing that I ran into the other day that was, and it happened 6 different times on that property, and it happened with both detectors. So it wasn't just one. I was using a Bristol V6, and then I went to use the Quest Pro. And I don't know if you've ever had this happen. Now, there's no electrical stuff around. I mean, I could be getting some, I guess, Wi-Fi signals or microwaves, something like that. I'm not sure, but I was like towards the middle of the property, so I know I'm like a half a mile from any kind of real civilization at all. It'd be a metal detecting, and all of a sudden the detector would just go crazy. Just, either one of them didn't matter. And I'm like, well, what the heck? It was almost like, it was just like EMI, like we get it inside the city limits or something like that. I'm like, okay. I stopped. I'm like, what is that? Is that a signal? Is there a signal there or something like that? I'm trying to get it. And it would just stop. And I'd go back over the spot again. There's nothing. I move on. I don't, 10 minutes later to a different spot, obviously, and it would do it again. And it did with both metal detectors. And it's like there's nothing electrical around there at all. And it's like, pretty secluded to the point where, I didn't even have my cell phone with me because I don't carry my cell phone when I detect. I leave it in the pickup truck. And I thought maybe the first time, because I was about 20 yards away from the truck, I said, well, maybe I'm catching some kind of thing off the cell phone. But the other times it happened, I was a good, I don't know, 50 to 100 yards away from the truck when it happened. That's the only thing I can come up with, is if it was coming off the cell phone somehow. But I've never had that experience with the bliss tool, especially because the way I had it set up. I even moved up my frequency up a little bit, and then went back over it, and I couldn't repeat it. It would not repeat like it did, in that spot. It would just stop all of a sudden. And I know that the electromagnetic stuff and everything, or the EVPs and all that stuff, it deals with power. Is that part of it? I don't know. It's just strange. But I think that's a lot of the reason why I haven't really found anything. You swing a detector long enough, you're going to find at least a modern penny. I mean, there's been people there, there's been workers there, there's been, I haven't found any tools, any, I don't know, any kind of stuff from, other than bullet casings, Craig. I mean, I'm not finding anything like lantern parts or I don't know, anything you would imagine finding on a property that's not money related or not, I don't find any buttons, especially in the fields I knew they farmed. You'd find a button or two or some kind of horse tack or whatever, just not finding it, other than that little piece of chain. And that took me, 4 hours to find. But I knew that was iron when I went over it too. So I'm just really scratching my head. And nobody hits a property that hard. You're always going to find something. Even if somebody detected that property for 10 years, you're still going to find some kind of remnants. I found a couple pull tabs, but those are, they ain't that old. I fully expected to find something from at least the late 1800s, something, that I can kind of trace back a little bit. And it may be the bed.
Have you hunted along the water, close?
Well, I hunted all around the house. It's probably about a quarter acre that's huntable around the house, and then I went off into the woods along the river and detected there. Now, they found arrowheads and stuff through there. I'm not getting anything other than a few pieces of scrap steel. I did find a part of the bridge bolt and a plate from the bridge, which we think that got thrown in the river right there along the edge of the river. I haven't been able to see it because the river's up a little bit, but I'm not finding. There's even an old swing out there, like really falling apart. Now it's not. It's probably 50 years old. It's not older than that, but I'm not finding anything. It's like just no signals, and I'm down on like 2 discrimination level and 7 on the discrimination depth, and the most I get is like a nail here or there, but no kind of other activity. It's really shocking, to me that, even in your own yard, you find more than that. In most people's yards, any kind of a penny, a Lincoln penny, modern. I think the only thing I found there around the house that was any significance, I found a 1920 carburetor top for a Model T carburetor. It was I can't remember what they called it, but it had the stamp on it and it had the date on it. It's the only reason I know what. I think it was for a Model T, but anyways, from a 1924 carburetor. It was about the size of a pocket watch, maybe a little bit bigger. And I found a screwdriver that the guy had lost the year before, the guy the caretaker of the property, and it was down near the river. But that was it. It just floors me. I don't know. It's not my setting. I know the stuff's there. I mean, it just has to be. Any kind of activity for 200 years. He has all kinds of problems in there, Craig. I mean, stuff you guys probably wouldn't even believe, but he's scared. He gets scared. I mean, he's 68 years old. He's not a young man anymore. He goes, I've seen a lot of things in my life, but when I start getting manhandled and thrown around, this happened twice to him. When he first moved in, he was restoring the back room back there, and he says, he goes, it's always a possibility that I could have passed out. He goes, but I remember getting shoved into the shelving unit and hit his head and ended up on the floor, stuff like that. It's been pretty violent for him, but he's he still hangs in there. But I think he's kind of psyched himself out about it, You know what I mean? He's kind of like, you know, put that seed in his head. You know, everything is witchy. You know, and I told him, man, you got to calm down. You know, this is, if you know, hell, if anything else, sit down and have a cup of coffee with them. You know, but I believe stuff goes on. I've seen stuff that blow people's minds out. We had a show with Howard Hewitt a couple years ago, and man, that show went crazy. And I went back and I posted up a lot of the EVPs and stuff like that were coming through on the show. I still haven't figured that out. That was a strange one, but even Howard was like, I need a copy of those. That was really weird. But we've never had ever since then. We've never had that happen again, you know, with anybody. But yeah, Howard told me before that show it could get weird. It usually does when he's on a radio show.
Yeah, they know he's a medium, and they can try to, you know, communicate through him.
Something.
But yeah, I've been into this stuff. I started, you know, when I was probably about 18 or 19. I started reading about this stuff, and they had this thing where you tune the radio in between channels, the static, and you record it, and it's like white noise, and you can hear voices, you know, talking and words and different things. And there's like 3 levels. One is, you know, it's crystal clear. You can hear actual word or a sentence, or you can actually tell, you know, if it's a woman or man, maybe even. And then there's ones that are, you know, not quite, you know, you can hear part of it, but part of it's garbled. And then there's one you can hear its words, but you can't, you know, tell what it is really. So now they got this thing called that ghost box, I think it's called, that you can buy, and it's always switching between all the channels so fast that, you know, it's all white noise. That, you know,
well, I thought about an EMI meter
covered more frequencies, I guess, but
yeah,
you know, people ask questions and try to interact with some of these voices. It's pretty wild stuff, but you know, you got to keep an open mind about it. You know.
Yeah. Well, he was telling me stuff, Craig, that I've never heard of before. Where he was.
I think one thing is, you know, some people want to believe it's really true, you know, and so they start hearing things that aren't really there. And,
right, you're psyching yourself out to hear it.
But
when he started telling me stuff that I hadn't really experienced myself or haven't heard of anybody experience, like he was telling me one time he was walking across the floor in the living room area. It's kind of, you walk in the front door and there's a living room. He has a TV set up, and there's an old, you know, it's kind of it's an antler chandelier. And this is like a cracker house. This is not a very big house. It's actually pretty small, but it has this really neat high ceiling chandelier hanging there, and then there's a stone fireplace to the right. And they actually rebuilt this stone fireplace because it was leaning into the house. They had to take it all apart and rebuild it. And then you look straight through the living room, and there's a big sliding door, and it opens up to the back porch that overlooks the river. It's a beautiful scene. You can see the poles from the old bridge and stuff like that they're still, you know, showing above the water a little bit. Be a beautiful place. But he said when he was walking across the floor, he said it was like somebody had a magnet underneath the house, and it was really hard for him to walk, to step. And it sounds kind of silly at the time when I heard it. Him say, he goes, I even got up on a chair, and my feet felt heavy. It was like electromagnetic something. It was like it was holding him, and he hear a voice, get down, you know. And it tripped him out. It's gotten to the point where he walks out of the house and he'll sit on the front porch. He can't go in the house at night. You know, it's got him that freaked out. So, you know, I told him, I said, well, I'll you know, talk to I got a couple friends that do some of this paranormal stuff and everything. I know a little bit about it. I know enough to be probably dangerous with it. But I thought about the EMI thing, the meter, because, you know, the metal detectors put that off anyways. You know, they have a certain amount of EMI that comes off of them. I think I saw a test a guy did with an Excalibur and a Beach Hunter ID one time using an EMI meter, EMF meter. I can't remember what he called it, but I think you could buy these at like Lowe's or whatever. I may go down and buy one just to. I'm curious about the.
They probably got them on eBay or Amazon. I don't even think they're that expensive.
Yeah, I'm gonna get one because I want to know what that interference is. That's just where it's coming from. Maybe
there's a couple. There's a paranormal channel I watch on YouTube every once in a while, and they do a lot of go to a lot of hauntings in Virginia, and they actually were in Alexandria and Old Town and stuff, and they got these people call them and explain they got something going on, and would you like to check it out? And sometimes they find out some amazing stuff has happened in that house, in the past, bad stuff, and it's pretty interesting. But they have they do the ghost box, and they do the EMI stuff, and they send up sensors all over the house in different places. And then they get, it's the same thing. You get the different levels of sound, and you'll hear, a distinct, word, and then, but it's kind of interesting.
Well, even Bill Marsh is on Ohio Rock kind of talking about he's had some sketchy sights over the years. And I think we've all had moments. He calls them goosebump moments. I've had sights that I've walked on and gonna hunt them, and just got that. I don't even know how to. It's just a gut feeling. It's just a weird feeling, and I'm not going to detect here today. And I get back in my truck and I drive to another spot and detect there. You just get that. It's a goosebump moment's not bad. Don't fear it. Don't fear whatever's going. Just got that gut feeling saying, you know what, today's not the day to detect here. It just doesn't feel right. And I think that a lot of people, whether they, I know I've talked to several guys that have had that kind of experience before, but we're hunting old, a lot of times very old sites, and a lot of good stuff happened, a lot of bad stuff happened, and I think there's residual everywhere.
It was a weird one that happened years ago. Mike and Steve found a site out in Gainesville, Virginia, and it's right off of 29 and right off the Beltway, probably, I don't know, maybe not even a half a mile. And it's all gone now. It's like some kind of mall, condominium, kind of community, gated community or something.
Right.
But it used to be all, just woods as far as you could see. And they stumbled on this place, and they'd been hunted for years, and we didn't know it. And we found all kinds of Mississippi buttons, and I think there was we found about 70 Mississippi, not all Mississippi, but some Alabama and Virginia and Georgia. But between three of us, I think we got over 70 Confederate buttons out of that spot. But most of them were in bad shape because the ground was super mineralized, and then a lot of them are burned. I remember Steve dug a signal, and it was I think it was 5 or 6 Mississippi coat buttons, and a Civil War bullet had melted over top of them, and they were all stuck together to the lead. And so he was going, "Oh my God, this is terrible. What am I doing?" I said, "I wouldn't try to, pull that lead off the brass. You're going to just break it." I said, "I just cut it off as close as I can, because the lead is soft enough, you can do it." And that's what he did. But I thought that was. I said, "Look, it was right after the Battle of Bristow Station, so they took all the sick guys' jackets off. They all drank this bad water, and were told not to drink it. And it was in the middle of July or August, I think." And the men just, were so thirsty they drank it anyway, and they got sick. So they took them to this. It was I guess it was an 1857 house, and there was no remnants of the house except for just a clearing. And I guess they probably had lice all in their clothes and everything. They were sick, and they just took their clothes off and threw them in the fire.
Yeah.
And but that was, well, it was that back then we didn't have any, we didn't have cell phones with cameras and all that. I didn't even have a camera, and I think Steve had one, and he took several pictures of me digging there. And there was one picture, I was down digging near the tree line, and you can see the shadow of a man right behind me. And there was, there's nobody there. I mean, we would have seen anybody had been there,
Yep.
But, and I thought, man, that is wild,
It's like you can't prove them right, you can't prove it wrong, so it has to be something. I mean, even 1%, 2% of the stuff that we see is real. True deal, paranormal. It means it's real. I mean, that's the same thing I think about UFOs and all that. I mean, if only 10% of the stories are true, there's life out there. You know what I mean? So, whether it's dimensional life or whatever, that's one thing that's funny about metal detecting, though. We're always listening to that. You call it white noise when you're listening to static or whatever, but when you think about it, you have your earphones on, you're using something that puts off EMI anyways, or it's electronical or whatever, and has a hum to it. When I'm getting those distortions for no reason, and it's not, like I said, two different detectors did it to me, and they don't normally do that unless I'm in the city limits or something like that. What is that? Something trying to get through? Is that something messing with the? Well, obviously messing with the detector wouldn't be making that noise, but I can't redo the test. I mean, I can't. It's not doing it in that same spot. It doesn't do it again. So it's like, what the heck am I getting into? I didn't even think about it until after I talked to him that day. I just went on metal detecting. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's weird. With the Bliss tool, I've been walking along with just holding the machine. Walking along with the coil out in front of me, and I'm just holding it with one hand, and I'll suddenly get a ping, like a signal in one direction, and I'll stop and I'll walk backwards, and there's nothing. It's I've had that happen myself.
Yeah, that's happened quite a bit too.
I had it happen twice in the yard the other day, and I was like, what the heck is that? But, I'm between the police and the fire department, so there's a lot of, communication stuff, and so I don't know. And plus there's a lot of, ghost stuff next door. And
see, I can almost see it where you're at, Craig, because you're right there, like you said, between the fire department, police department. You're in the city. People have Wi-Fi going on and everything else. That's what confused me so much about being out in the middle of nowhere. And there's no overhead power lines. There, nothing I can see. I can't see any towers, and it doesn't happen all the time. I think it happened 6 or 7 times in different parts of the property. Never repeatable. Never. And it's like one, like you were talking about that dig me signal, bing. The signal is, you definitely want to back up and get it. You know what I mean? Because I almost missed it, and there's nothing there. It's not like a distortion. It's not like a spit. It's not like a false. It's like a dig me signal. Maybe I should dig up the ground right there next time that happens, just to see. Maybe, I don't know. It's strange you can't redo it. Even if it was a piece of iron, it would spit or something with the settings.
I had the coil was 3 or 4. Probably 3 feet off the ground. So,
right.
It's not, it's something in the air, I think. I don't know.
Well, I was swinging the coil when this went on. I was walking and swinging, and it said bing. And I had to take a step back. Like, okay, what the hell? There's nothing there. Start walking again, and, it didn't happen all the time. And maybe 10 minutes later, bing, and back up. What the heck? It's not a false either. It's not like it's a false or chirp, or it's a solid, there's a quarter 2 inches down in the ground kind of signal. I mean, it's a definite, ping or whatever signal coming, target sound coming out. It's not like a partial or like a, I don't know how you'd put it, but yeah, that happened quite a bit too out there. But I couldn't never. There was nothing around it. I couldn't even get. I put it in all metal one time. Wasn't getting anything. Just weird. And the Quest would always read up 92, 92. When that happened, I looked down at the meter. It's 92. But I go back over it, and there's a couple times there was a nail, but it was like right off the bat 15 or something like that. And it was jumping around a lot. But and as I was swinging it, every fourth or fifth swing, 92. What the heck? There's nothing there. I know there's not there, and it didn't hear a signal really. I heard a spit, but it always jumped to 92 for some reason. And I haven't used the detector long enough to know what that might be. I know in the 78, 79 is dimes. I'm assuming quarter signal, but silver quarter maybe would be 92. It seems like it runs more like the whites does as far as the target IDs and all that stuff, but or target numbers. But yeah, just you're dealing with electronics, and you set up your machine properly. I mean, I know how to set the machine up, and of course I know how to run the Bliss, and I've never really had those kind of situations come up very often where you're out in the middle of nowhere like that. I mean, we've hunted some, pretty old properties, Craig, when you think about it, even during when we went to CWPPO and up in Horsham. I mean, God, there's all kinds of history up there, and I was actually staying on the property through that weekend hunt and everything. Just me and Pauline, the caretaker, wasn't even there at the time. But yeah, I mean, I've just never had these kind of experiences there, and I would have expected to have them there, with all the history that went on. But yeah, who knows? It's kind of it's a neat creepy. I like neat creepy. But yeah, I saw your post got a little on Facebook there. We were talking about that before the show too, about the General Lee or whatever, talking about the history. And a couple people, I could tell, we stirred up two people anyways with that, but saving history and how to go don't take a knee or save history or something like that. Oh shoot.
Yeah, don't take a knee, stand for history.
Yeah, stand for history. Yeah, I ticked off one guy, but hey, you pulled it off a metal detecting site, so.
Yeah.
But
well, that's if you it's like they're trying to erase history, and we're trying to preserve it. It's like the opposite,
right.
We're kind of racing against construction, going up, everything, it seems like everywhere, we're losing land to hunt, just from, building and construction and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's, I think, even if you don't like, it's part of history, and you got to learn from it. And it seems like all over the world, people are trying to tear stuff down, and I just, I don't know.
Well, it's
I'm
gone
not
on
for it.
Centuries. People, defacing, statues and everything else, even back to Egypt, and they tear up, monuments and stuff like that. I think when it directly affects us, oh, go ahead.
My ancestors were, farmers and business people, small business people, and they were, doctors and lawyers and different things like that, but when, an army attacks your state, and all of a sudden, your whole state's a war zone, you got to look at it at a different perspective, and it wasn't like, people were just, it became a war, where an invading army attacks where you live, that's kind of, it kind of exploded from there, but it's just it's part of history, and you got to learn from it. And I traced back at least 40 Confederate ancestors. I had two that died at pick of charge at Gettysburg.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to me, it's an awesome history. I mean, you read about the heroics and what happened. One of the things that always stands out with me is when at Fredericksburg, when they sent just regiment after regiment at Mary's Hill, and they just got slaughtered, and they were attacking like the Confederates are all entrenched up a hill, and they just fired down on them as they just marched across an open field. And I think in that hour they lost 9,000 men. It got so bad that after they kept calling up they just kept calling up more regiments, and finally I think it was Burnside just said, no, we're not going to, I didn't see the signal, couldn't see the signal, and he didn't want to have his men slaughtered. But, at one point, Stonewall Jackson tells Lee, if they keep coming, we'll murder them all. And Lee says, it's a good thing that war is so terrible, otherwise men will become fond of it.
Yeah.
And it was, that it's not all glory. It's pretty gritty. But you hear
that the last thing you want is a war. A war is I don't know. It
one of my ancestors, about 3 or 4 years after the war, basically committed suicide with his musket, and it's. Men were depressed, it was a whole generation that was, torn apart. It took a long time to recover after the war.
Well, it does not, even today, we have the same, outcome. I mean, unfortunately, it's bad. I mean, it's a lot of mental, PTSD and all this stuff going on. I mean, it's been prevalent in every war, I'm sure. And that one, the Civil War was even more, because you're fighting brother against brother, father against father, whatever. It was vicious. I just don't think it's something that should be forgotten at all. I mean, if anything, we don't want to make the same mistakes we did back then, and understanding too that it was a different time. Even all this bad stuff or whatever stuff that we think is politically incorrect now, it was normal. That was life back then. Not that we're condoning it at all. I mean, slavery and all the stuff, but it's what went on at that particular time in our history. Not that we want to see any of that back or anything. Just like alcohol, tobacco, anything bad, good and bad both. I mean, you can't have one without the other. But I mean, it's. I think people are smart enough to understand that, or should be smart enough to understand that we don't live by the same standards nowadays. Hopefully, we've improved our existence, and we have in a lot of ways with the laws and everything else, but. Yeah, it just defacing.
I think
getting rid of our history is not the way to go.
One thing I think is less common sense now, though, than there was back then.
I agree with you. And accountability is in the toilet. I mean, accountability.
We might be really smart and we can use computers and all this stuff, but a lot of I think there was a lot more interaction with people, with each other back then. I think it's becoming less and less of it face to face anymore.
Yeah. Well, there's no accountability. Right? People can't accept responsibility for their own actions. It's always somebody else's fault. And in some cases it's true. It is somebody else. But I mean, everything can't be somebody else's fault. I mean, sometimes you have to take it on yourself to say, hey, I screwed up. I did something wrong, or I did, I should have done this, or, and that's the way. I try to look at stuff. I always put, I'm always harder on myself than I am as anybody else around me. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe I did something wrong. It's, I don't know. But you're right. The way that, it's not everyone. It's just, man, there's a handful of them out there that just drink the Kool-Aid. They're just way out there, and you're not going to change that. But as a civilization, the stuff that goes on, this is nothing over here compared to what goes on in some of these countries. It's the tyranny, the I don't know, the lack of respect for life, that kind of thing. And that goes on even nowadays in different countries. It's real sad.
Yeah, you would think that as you got smarter and more, I don't know, that you
Educated.
wouldn't be more warlike, but it's like they've got people almost, it hasn't changed. I mean,
No.
man, just, and it seems like you get, some tyrant or dictator or, some personality that takes over like a whole country or something, and all of a sudden, it leads to big wars and, power. And
Well, a history teacher always told me, he says, the more
throughout
things change,
history is like that.
Yeah, history teacher told me, he said, back when I was in grade school, I think it was, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And it didn't make much sense back then, but it does make sense when I, as an older person, looking back to, some of the mistakes we still make, as a civilization, as a community, as a, not that all things are bad or anything, but, there's no real answer for it. You can't control what people do. People are going to do what they do. But
I was debating a guy a few years ago because he was, complaining about the internet and how it, people, are doing all this fake news, and they're doing, using it as a weapon against people. And I said, this is nothing new. I said, ever since like the 1700s, when probably the early 1800s, politicians, a lot of them would buy newspapers and pamphlets, and they would use it to destroy their opponents in the pamphlet or the newspaper. And it was called the yellow press, and it got so where, that was a well-known term. I mean, what was it? What is it? Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain.
yeah.
He talks about, how bad, the yellow press was, and, and it just, lying, just about everything just to get, their point through. And
well, they use that,
it's
and
nothing
that in bars, the taverns. There was,
yeah.
Michael Rowe did a show called The History of Beer, and he narrates it or whatever. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of stuff like way back before the Revolutionary War. Things were decided in a tavern, by politicians. They buy a round of drinks and get the people on, buy them enough drinks and they're on your side. And there used to be laws that had to be a tavern every 5 miles or something like that. And for every church, there had to be 2 taverns. There was all kinds of crazy laws about that. But the press, that was, if you watch a lot of the press people, the news, I don't know what you call them, the guys that did the newspapers would hang out in the taverns, picking up news, that they could write about or whatever, the gossip of the day.
Yeah.
You have it happen today. I was down at the convenience store, and this cashier was reading me the riot act about vaping. It's like, what are you talking about? She goes, oh, you're going to get popcorn lung. They say you're going to get popcorn lung and that it causes mental illness. I said, well, I'm already half crazy, so it don't really matter about the mental illness. Just, I'm like, Jesus, do you believe everything you hear? Come on now.
That is ridiculous.
I told her, I said, I've been vaping for 3.5 years, 4 years.
It's probably the cigarette companies that are putting out propaganda.
Yeah, I told her, I tried to tell her, I said, when you have the big tobacco and the government in bed together about vaping, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out that they don't want vaping around because it's taken away from their cigarette sales. Come on, and I do smoke still, but I've been trying to get off the stuff, but I vaped for 3.5 years, had nothing but good experience out of it. I mean, my breathing was better. She said it was causing mental illness. I'm like, everything I love is killing me. As a song by Alan Jackson, caffeine and whatever, everything that's good will kill you. I mean, in the right amount. It's just the way it is. But if you put a pedestal up there, and I was really trying to be nice to her. I said, if cigarettes are bad, wouldn't you say cigarettes are bad? She goes, yeah. I said, oh, see, we put it from 1 to 100 being bad. They're pretty high up. They'll say 90. And then vaping, where do you put vaping at? She goes, well, I don't really know. I said, I put it around 10, 20. So which one's worse? Which one would you rather see me do? The one that's not going to kill me so fast, or the one that's definitely going to kill me? I finally got through to her, but see, she had all this stuff. She just believed it. It was like, she didn't smoke or vape. I'm like, why do you care? Why are you, I have no doubt people put stuff in that vaping liquid that, depending on these companies, like Juul and stuff. I don't know about them. I mean, I've always gotten mine from a certain. Well, I've told you, I've had the guy on the show, Vape Wild, but they keep all their ingredients. It's what they put in it. It's honest deal. Now, if they start adding crap, these companies start adding crap to that liquid, yeah, I can see where it'd be a problem then. But if they're using just the nicotine and the flavoring, it's not going to hurt anybody. And actually, I have a neighbor that started vaping about 3 months ago. He's quit smoking altogether, and he loves it. And he says, he's not having any problem. He goes, man, I can taste food again. And I'm not, getting out of breath. And he goes, oh, it's so nice. And he gets on me. He sees me out there with a cigarette once in a while. I say, yeah, man, I'm kind of bouncing between the two of them. But, and I don't have anything against smokers or not. I have no horse in the race, put it that way. I really don't care. But, I mean, at least get your story right or your information right. So, yeah. But that's it goes along with any kind of topic you want to talk about as far as, when the news gets involved and politicians get involved, stuff gets crazy. But my daughter called me last night, and my son-in-law's actually, and I can't remember the name of the company or whatever, but they're talking about transferring out to Colorado with his job. He works as he's a subcontractor for government. I don't know. It's not like Lockheed Martin or nothing like that. It's anyways, but they're talking about transferring and everything, and they were telling me, well, I don't know which part. She goes, I don't care at this point because we live 10 miles outside of D.C. Right now, 10 or 20 miles outside of D.C. She goes, Dad, this is crazy up here. That's all they talk about is conspiracy theories and da-da-da-da. I said, that's why Craig moved out of Alexandria. He got tired of all the crap. So they're ready to move out to Colorado just to get rid of all the political kind of thing. But look where they live. It's like you lived in Alexandria inside the Loop. Yeah, you're going to be pounded by political stuff. I mean, that's just the way it is up there. But
I had a guy that was one of the top guys in Commerce across the street. That was about half crazy. Mm-hmm. But there was like spooks in the neighborhood, CIA people. I remember a long time ago, my dad was, had a high security clearance with the Department of Defense, and even after he retired, there would be the men in black showing up at the door to asking questions about some neighbor that was applying for a job or something,
Yeah.
And I'd always go, Dad, who was that all that? Oh, I can't tell you anything,
Don't know nothing.
I was like,
weird.
But, it's kind of, that's the kind of town, and that kind of, my dad worked at the Pentagon. He had an office there, and I taught, a lot of military people tennis that worked at the Pentagon. In fact, our house is being rented by a colonel that goes and works at the Pentagon right now.
Yeah.
But, it's just, it's 5 miles, Alexandria is 5 miles from the Pentagon and about maybe 5 to 7 miles from Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And from my yard, we used to be able to see, but the skyscraper got in the way, but we used to be able to see into Maryland. You can see the sky above Maryland, but we used to actually be able to see Maryland from our yard across the river. Mm-hmm. But that area is, I think last year Alexandria was the 7th most expensive place to live in the United States.
I know.
Now
my
it's
kids
ninth.
Yeah.
And it's like the high school that they spent $135 million on, and it was the 3rd or 4th most expensive high school in the country at the time. And this was 10 years ago, and this school was going to be, great, and it, would never have to do anything more with this. It was going to, 30 years into the future, and it was a high tech and everything. Now they got trailers all around the school because it's overcrowded.
Well, that's like Reston, Virginia. It's crazy. My kids were, was paying, it's either $1,800 or $2,800 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. It's crazy expensive. That's just ludicrous. That's why they wanted to get out of there so bad. And, or, you know, it's a high, well, at the time it was like the number 2 most expensive city to live in or something like that, but that's where his job was at, so, you know, they moved up there. But, yeah, they both were working jobs and everything, trying to make that work, and they did.
You know, when I was in my, you know, like, teens and early 20s, the Reston was, like, there was one apartment area, and then we used to go out there because there was these, what was it called? Quarry. Well, they were not quarries. They were big areas where there was water. Like, you know, they had like a dam.
Oh, like a reservoir kind of thing.
Yeah, reservoirs. And some of them are, you know, really deep. And then there was a couple that had like places where you could swim out a couple hundred yards and then get up on these big towers and dive off, you know. And we'd go out there, and it was in the middle of nowhere, and you had to drive like a half a mile through the woods to get there. And and then you pop out, and there would be like 150 cars, you know, and everybody all over the place swimming and stuff. It was crazy. But you know, it was just, we could drive from Alexandria to Tyson's Corner in 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Now you couldn't. You get within 2 miles of Tyson's Corner, and it takes you half an hour to get there from there.
Oh yeah, I was with you when we went out metal detecting. It took forever to go 2 miles. I was like, oh my God, slit my own wrist.
Yeah.
Man. Gee,
and see, I lived in, you know, I lived there all my whole life, and you know,
Kirk's like no big deal. He's just driving around, swerving around people. Not, you know, I'm like sitting over there white knuckling. I'm like, geez, that person almost cut us off.
Yeah,
oh my God, you know, like.
You know, I was an aggressive driver. You know.
Oh, I don't have a problem with the aggressive. I was worried about other people hitting us. Is what it was. It was like, these people aren't paying attention.
You know, I was always speeding and everything else, and you know, I was like, God, I was getting so mad in traffic. Oh, it was just a normal thing to be mad in traffic, and the roads were bad, potholes, and you know, they wouldn't fix them. You know, they build some new, you know, government building, but they wouldn't fix the streets. You know, stuff like that. But it was, you know, they have tax and spend in all those areas in Northern Virginia, and so the taxes have to go up and up and up every year. And
right,
you know, when I had to start paying for them after Mom died, you know, it's like I think the last time it was about $11,000 or $12,000, you know, for property tax in 1 year.
Their damn
And I got the same size house, you know, and probably 10 times more property than I did in Alexandria, and I'd pay $1,300 a year.
Yeah.
You know, it's like crazy, you know, and there's no traffic out here, you know, at all. You know,
I pay like $150 a year, Craig. That's all I pay. But I'm also homestead exemption down here too. But you know, even then it'd be $400 a year. You know, if I wasn't, you know, didn't have that. But every resident can get that. And say if you have cattle, I think it's if you have 2 cows or 3 cows, or a certain number of goats or whatever on your property, you have over an acre, you get a greenbelt stamp, which is even. A greenbelt is like even lower than homestead exemption, and you can have like 10 acres and pay $75 if you have cattle on it or whatever. That's why a lot of the guys still farm, you know. But that's, you know, I don't mind it because it gives me places to metal detect too. You know, these people come from the city, they buy a big piece of property. They don't ever go if they have 10 or 20 acres. They may go out there once in a while, but after a while they don't go out there, so they really don't mind, you know. I'll go out there and walk around. If you see anything going on, let me know. If you see a fence down or whatever, let me know. I'm like, okay, no problem. You know, I'll help them out. And it gives me a place to metal detect, you know. And then they'll start wanting to find property stakes and this and that. So, you know, I get, you know, it works out for me pretty good, but I couldn't, it's like the guy that, you know, I hunt that Tollbridge property. That's like almost, it's between 400 and 500 acres right there. But he also leases it out to have cattle on it and have crops grown, hay or whatever else in order to get the greenbelt stamp so it doesn't kill him on taxes. I don't even want to know how much taxes he pay on that property. Whew, way up there. But I go out there and find stuff, and it just, you know, he could even actually make that kind of historical too, is what he was thinking about doing. just for future that one piece of that parcel up where the bridge was at, and he was thinking about maybe trying to have the bridge redone, since he knows about where they laid it in the river. And the beams are all still good, and if they are still good, to redo that bridge or a certain part of it, anyways, for historical kind of things, because it'd been a wooden bridge in 1820, and it was probably up before that, and then it went on to a steel bridge after that, and and through the Civil War and all that other stuff. So Indian Wars, the whole 9 yards. So it was quite a bit of history right there. But we'll see what he's up to. I'm just trying to locate stuff for him. Hell, I might have a big metal detecting party out here. Call a bunch of you guys up that live down here. I want to make the trip and come down and we'll hunt the crap out of that property. There's got to be stuff on there. Take a week and do nothing but metal detect. We can camp out there.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. But
we're just getting a line about 20 feet apart and just start at one end of the property and just go all the way across.
Oh man, you'd be dead by the time you got to the other side of the property. It's quite a bit of long ways too. I mean, it's I haven't even got into where there's another section that he owns up near Withlacoochee Heights, and it's another 200 or 300 acres up there. And there was a house on that property too. It's gone now, but I tried to go up there. I followed him up there one time, but the hay was so tall, the grass or whatever. I couldn't even swing the coil. When I figure when they cut it back or whatever, I'll go up there. But you see all kinds of wild. That's one thing I like about it, man. You can sit out there and take a break, and you'll see a deer run by and wild turkeys running around, and critters, snakes, the whole 9 yards. There's all kinds of wildlife out there. I about got hit by a sandhill crane the other day. It didn't see me or something. I come over a tree and swooped down. It was about 3 or 4 foot from hitting me in the head. Those I don't know if I put them on my video before. They stand about 3 foot tall. They're got these long beaks on them, a red dot on their head, or not dot, but a slash of feathers, red feathers. But yeah, I about got hit by one of those the other day. I don't know who was more scared, him or me, because I ducked pretty quick. He kind of swerved.
We got these bats that I guess they're about a foot wide, or maybe a little longer wingspan on them, and the head of them looks like a little fox almost.
It was like a fruit bat.
I don't know what it is, but when I first moved in, we got go out the back door and then you go down steps to the yard, and bats would come, flying real close to the house and almost hit you, But my friend next door he's got military grade night vision, and he said, "You wouldn't believe how many bats are flying in your yard at night." I go, "Quit looking at my yard."
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I got out there, and property caretaker says, "You got your gun with you, don't you?" I said, "I carry it every time I come out here because they got wild hogs and coyotes and stuff out there, and they're probably not a far stretch to say they're. I've never seen a bear in Sumter County, but in Hernando County I have, and that's right across the river. But yeah, so I carry a gun. And, he's like, okay, just good, because I saw, the hogs were out. And the only thing I ever worry about with them is getting cornered or something. You can't get away from them, type thing. But I've never been bothered by any of the wildlife. I mean, I've seen, coyotes. They pretty much go off on their own way. Deer, I'm not worried about. Hogs, the boar hogs. I guess if you got between the mama and the babies somehow, yeah, you'd have to watch your butt. But I've never been charged by any of them. Not that they wouldn't, but they seem to be perfect. If they have a way to go, they'll just go that way, rather than confront you. But I still carry, I don't know. Seeing how I'm out there by myself, man, out in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, and it's my little 38, but it works good.
I had a skunk in the yard last year.
No, you can have skunks. I hate skunks, man. Stinky bugs.
Never saw it again. I've seen raccoons and possums a few times.
I got snuck up on by a
all kinds of hawks. There's probably 4 different types of hawks. Seen eagles a few times. Um, and all kinds of weird birds. Different kinds I haven't seen, like in Alexandria. I don't know what some of them are. Some of them are. I try to take pictures of them, and they're so quick. You got to be real quick before they take off before you can get a picture.
Yeah.
But,
I was sitting on the tailgate the other day and taking a break, and I kept on hearing like leaves rustling. I mean, a lot. And I'm like, what the hell is? I'm looking around. I'm not seeing anything moving. It's whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And right below my feet, I'm sitting on the tailgate. Here comes a doggone gopher turtle. He's about the size of a soccer ball width-wise. And he was making all the noise. And he wasn't moving that fast. He's just enough to keep me wondering what the heck's coming up behind me. I was going to get a picture of him. I didn't even think about doing it. But, because we get some turtles. We got soft-shell turtles. I think I posted them up on Facebook before, the size of garbage can lids. The garbage cans out they'll walk up the street. Trying to get over to the river, between the ponds and the rivers, gators, everything else. Yeah, I didn't even talk about the gators out there. They got a 12-footer that's hanging out by the dock over there on that property. They don't bother you. I mean, unless you mess with. If you stand by the edge of the water and jump up and down and say, "Hey, I'm a pork chop," they're going to come and get you. But most of the time, they're, unless you're, just use your head. I mean, that's why I tell guys, some of my friends around here, one of them, my next door neighbor, is from New Jersey. I said, he goes, "What if I see this coral snake?" I said, "Don't touch it." And he just looked at me and laughed. I said, "Well, don't touch it. If you don't know what it is, don't piss with it. Leave it alone. Come and ask me, whatever." There's things that I didn't mess. I didn't even realize we had Cuban tree frogs down here. And damn saw it. Tree frog is, and most of you guys know it, about the size of a quarter, maybe. This thing was freaking like 2 or 3 inches long. Why, it was like a mutant tree frog. I had no idea what it was. Do you think I picked it up? Hell no. I thought about it. I'm like, no, I'm not touching it. Because, you don't know if the oil's on their skin or whatever. It just, I looked it up online. It was a Cuban tree frog. Never had seen one down here in Florida. And, I had a snake. I'm not afraid of snakes either, but I have a doggone garden snake. And you think garden snake, what, 1 foot, 2 foot, Craig? This thing was every bit of 3 foot and bigger around than a silver dollar. Biggest garden snake I'd ever seen down here. And I looked it up online. It was just like it's a weird colored green, mixed green color. I didn't know I was going to grab it. I'm like, no, it might be poisonous. I don't know. But, I looked it up online and I saw a picture of one, and it's like, I can't remember what they call it, gigantic garden snake. And it was about the same size. I think the one I have in the back of my property is bigger than it. But they don't eat nothing but, insects and frogs and whatever, rats, mice. They're not, why get rid of them? There's really only two, well, other than water moccasins. You got rattlesnake, water moccasin, coral snake, are the three that are really poisonous down here. The other snakes, you got a lot of lookalikes. Like a coral king looks just like a coral snake, but it's red on yellow kill a fellow. In other words, the red stripe and the yellow stripe touch, it'll kill you if it bites you. Red on black, my friend Jack. So red on black, you can pick up as a coral king snake. But it's true. I mean, but also people don't understand too that coral snakes don't have the same kind of bite, fangs, and everything else like a rattlesnake does. Or moccasin. They have to kind of get you between the skin, like where your thumb is and your first finger. It has to get you like in between there. Something can get in his mouth. These snakes aren't humongous. These corals. And they sooner run away from you. I've seen them plenty of times, and they're just always scurrying away from me. They don't want to be around. Now, coral king, we have rat snakes, we have all these different snakes. I have 3 or 4 different varieties on my property. I have a black snake, black racer, that it's huge, but I don't bother it. It doesn't bother me. It just gets, I don't have a mouse problem or a mole problem or anything else on this property. Really, the only insects, we have wasps and stuff, but we don't have a big problem with any kind of, little critters. The squirrels are still around and stuff, so, and the rabbits and stuff still come around, but I haven't seen a mole in this property in years. These snakes take care of it. Between that and the hawks and we have all kinds of wild. We're pretty fortunate. We have a big variety of like falcons and whatever birds of prey out here, and the coyotes keep the the levels down as far as the rabbits go. We have a couple on our property, and they hang out. I go out in the morning and have my cup of coffee with all the little farm animals, I guess you could say, or wild animals. So it works out pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of snakes out in the woods this year, and Jeff kind of freaked out. You know, but I was going into the woods first about a month ago, and I heard something, you know, and I thought it made that sound, you know, going through the leaves, and I thought, I bet that's a snake, you know. So I started looking, and all of a sudden the noise disappeared, and then I saw the leaves moving in this one little area. So I walked over to look, and then I looked out of the corner of my eye, and about 15 feet away, I saw this big gray snake about 3 feet long, real thin, you know, just slinking away real quick.
Yep.
And I don't know what kind it was. It's some kind of racer or something, probably. But
I don't know.
Snakes kind of startle me. They startle me if I see it, you know, right off. But you know, after that, it doesn't bother me. I'm not, you know.
The only ones I'm not really afraid of any of them. I do not like moccasins. They are ambush predators. They will. I've almost stepped on them before they even moved, before I even knew they were there, and they will lie still. And you know, if I see one, I kill it. I mean, there's no doubt about it, because they to me they don't serve any. If they're around a house or something, like, you know, like over here by the river, if it's by the house, I mean, that, you know, he could have his grandkids over or something. They could be playing by the, you know, and get bit by it. So yeah, I get rid of it. He gets rid of them. But like black racers, stuff that's not poisonous, I don't really worry about. You know, they're not, most of the time they're not going to hurt you. But those water moccasins, there's something different about them. But you got to be careful too. There's several different kinds of water snakes. You don't want to get rid of one that's not a bad one. You know what I mean? Because they do take care of a lot of the little pest kind of things. But yeah, that's the only. I'm not even afraid of them. I just don't like them.
Yeah, I
did several times.
I've had people, you know, I've seen copperheads in the woods, and
yeah,
I remember this friend of mine, you know, said, "Hey, I want to show you something. You know, walk straight ahead. I won't let anything happen." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
And I'm looking around, and all of a sudden I see this giant. It was the biggest copperhead I've ever seen.
They get big,
before or since, but I've only seen them maybe 5 times when I've been in the woods. But you know, it was all curled up, you know, and it was, you know, totally still. They're ambush critters. They're almost camouflaged. If you're not really looking for them, or if they don't move, you probably won't even see them, and they're not going to get you unless you like step on them or something.
Right. That's why reason I don't like them. You know, it's the same with the moccasin.
Yeah.
They sit there.
You know,
you don't know until it's too late that they're there. So.
Well, anyway, you know, I see the snake, you know, and my friend says, you know, what are you going to do? And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, something about killing it. And I said, no, I'm not going to kill it. And he goes, good answer. And I said, I said, no, I'm not into killing animals and stuff in the woods, you know, just for the hell of it. You know,
no. I mean, I'm talking about around houses, you know, I mean, around residential. Yeah. You know, my wife, and exaggeration, Craig, when I lived in the Zephyr Hills, we had these little bushes next to the house, and it was either 4 or 5 foot long rattlesnake, diamondback. My wife was out there raking the leaves up, you know, underneath it. And that thing came out there, and she was swinging on that thing with that rake like a samurai warrior. The neighbor didn't know what the hell. He come running out of his house, and he brought a shovel, and they found it. But it was a big old diamondback rattler, and you know, kids next door and everything else.
That's a little bit different. Yeah,
that's a little bit different. But I wish I could have seen it. I would have videotaped it and put it on YouTube, and it would have been like viral. My wife swinging a rake like crazy. He said it was the funniest damn. At first, he didn't know what was going on, obviously, and afterwards, he had to laugh at her, and she was laughing too. But yeah, he's just swinging that thing around. Yeah, kind of like you with an entrenchment tool, but not with such precision.
Yeah. Well, I've been a master of nunchucks for a long time. So I could use those too.
38 works good for me to quick and easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the only nice thing about it. That guy, that watches over that property and everything. I was out there for like 4 hours, and about 2 or 3 hours in, I get a phone call, and I could hear my phone ringing in the truck. I walk back over and say, yeah, and he goes, I was just checking on you. You're okay out there, right? And I go, yeah, no problem, man. I'm over here on the other side of the property. Okay, well, let me know when you leave. All right, I will, and he's checking up on me. He goes, well, he goes, I've actually gotten hurt out there, and if you can't get back to your truck or whatever, I just wanted to call and see if you were okay. I said, well, that was good. I was glad I was by the truck because you probably had to come out and look for me because I don't carry my cell phone with me. When I'm metal detecting, I always leave it in the truck. I guess I should stop doing that, but I just don't like the idea of getting the interference once in a while. It hasn't happened in a while, but when I was using my White's machine, it would happen all the time.
Yeah, I never have any problem with that.
Yeah, it seems like the technology, the cell phones have changed a little bit from like 2010, somewhere in there. I used to have that problem with the White's machine. I had a White Spectra V3, and I would it wouldn't do it when the phone rang. It would do it when I got a text message. It would make all kinds of weird noises. The detector would. But I hadn't had it happen, God, in 5 years, anyways, with a cell phone. And I usually keep my cell phone in my back pocket, when I'm not metal detecting. So, but I haven't had very much interference problem out of any machine. So I don't know whether they changed the way that it was done or the way the signal is. Or a couple of guys said they did have a problem. I remember it was Tom Bunch that did with the V3, Blissful V3. Well, he was, he couldn't get it stabilized or whatever. I said, turn off your cell phone. He did, and oh my God, it worked. So I don't know what kind of cell phone he had at the time, but these new iPhones and Androids, they don't seem to have the same effect on detectors. I guess we can probably try that out sometime.
Well, it's all, back then there was 3G network. Now it's 4G, and it's getting ready to go to 5G.
Yeah.
I've been hearing all this stuff that it was something about the weather people or something were saying that it's going to the 5G was going to mess up put all this interference, and they weren't going to be able to check the weather right or something.
They don't do that right now as it is. It may rain tomorrow, it may not. It may be hot, it may be cold. It could snow, but I doubt it. That's the weather report for today.
I might look out the window and see what it's doing.
Yeah,
that's how you find out.
They said a 90% chance of rain in the morning. I'm looking at sunshine, and it's sunshine.
Then there's another one about that this 5G is going to cause everybody to start growing tumors all over their bodies, get cancer.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid, folks. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Yeah, I just, I don't understand a lot of this, and I'm not a tech guy really, but
Well, it's a new standard. It's going to be like 6 times faster than what the internet is now. It's going to be able to be fast enough for self-driving cars, and
right.
It'll go through data instead of having a modem.
I just don't like that idea, Craig. I really don't. I don't think that we have. I mean, computer-aided driving or something like that. You put too much into technology into a car that's holding you and your family. I don't know. Technology fails. It does.
One crazy thing I heard was, down the road when everybody's got these electric cars that are all robotic.
Right.
You'll be able to go like 100 miles an hour on the highway, inches apart, because everything will be precision controlled.
I just
so
don't.
You'll be in traffic.
We're getting old. We don't trust technology.
Inches apart, and you're going 100 miles an hour, and then somehow you shift over lanes, to get off the highway or whatever. But I'm like, oh my God, that there's going to be accidents.
I could just see, somebody's damn router going out and boom, big old brick, or a computer crashed. Mama sent me a text and voided out, and a hacker hit my dang hit my dang car, and now my car won't start, or it stopped in the middle of an intersection, or I don't know.
I don't know. It's just, and the same thing with this electric. It's like, I remember years ago, these college kids were, I said, it's electric car stuff is ridiculous. You're not saving your carbon footprint or anything. And they were going, and I said, you have to charge the battery with, electricity.
Whatever it is, coal. Or
and they go, yeah. And I go, where do you think it comes? Where do you think the electricity comes from? They go, the battery. And I said, well, how does the electricity get in there? It comes from coal. It comes from natural gas.
Yeah, some kind of.
You
got a solar
wind
panel
power,
out there.
solar.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from the battery. You have to charge it, and the energy has to come from. Most of it's coming from like coal and gas and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's people don't even realize this stuff. You're still, even though they're saying it's cleaner, it's just cleaner, around your car.
Right.
There's no pollution around it, but most cars now with the catalytic converters don't, they don't put out hardly anything but CO2 hardly.
Yeah.
But
Relics Radio, Loy over here said if he wears his hoodie in the wintertime, or I say whatever, he wears a hoodie in the wintertime and he keeps his iPhone in his front pouch, it'll mess with his GPX detector, which is pulse. That's the first one I've heard that really messes with the first iPhone. I mean, maybe I just haven't had that. Well, I don't have an iPhone, but I guess.
Well, pulse has got a little bit different way of doing things too.
That's true.
So it's probably the frequency of the phone is close to what it is on the
I
GPX.
keep my phone in my back left pocket. My Android, I have a ZTE phone, but I keep it on my back pocket. Usually, when I'm, if I'm detecting, I've never had a problem with it. When I did detect with it in there, I just choose not to, carry it back there. Of course, it has to go.
Well, it's like with the Equinox, probably when I do noise canceling, if there's any interference from my phone, it probably cancels it out.
Very well could.
Because that's one of the features I think that the Equinox does better than a lot of machines do. It really works. I have a real noisy, power lines in front of my house, and it's almost totally quiet now.
Yeah. Yeah, Bill said that's why you butt dial everybody, or butt dial them. I just put LOL in chat. Quite literally. No, to be honest with you guys, I would be the guy that has the flip phone if I had a choice in the matter. Not that I don't like my phone and haven't been able to get on the internet and all that stuff. I mean, that's more of a Craig thing. With me, I just as soon have a flip phone because all this other stuff just annoys me sometimes. And if I want to talk to somebody, I'll call them. Texting is okay, I guess. But when I had a flip phone, I didn't have to. I gave them one-word answers because I wasn't going to sit there and hit all those things to spill out a word. Like our smartphones figure it out for us now. But yeah, I just have a flip phone like a Star Trek phone. I'd be happy. But my wife made me get one of these. My daughter and my son-in-law, and so I've been using that for several years now. I'm actually kind of miss the time, Craig, when we didn't carry cell phones. In a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I'm, you're free.
I was waiting to get. I didn't get one until about 2006, I guess, or 7, and I had this little, flip phone, and I remember I was at the tennis camp, and all the kids were laughing, and I remember when they first, about the second iPhone came out, some of the kids were, the parents were, a lot of kids went to private school and the parents were rich, and they'd have these iPhones when they were like, 10, 11 years old, 12 years old,
Yeah.
And I remember I got the iPhone 4S. That was the first one I got. And, oh my God! Every kid in the camp had can I look at it? Can I see it? And I was like, they wanted to. It was the first one with Siri, and they wanted to test Siri, and they were. I remember this one kid goes, "Siri, do you know who I am?" And Siri goes, "No, I don't know who you are." And everybody, the whole place laughed their heads off.
Well, Craig, it's gotten to the point now where, like, I have a good friend of me and Pauline's, and she's a bartender at the Post there, and she has a son that's I think he just turned 3, and he's always on this iPad, watching kids, movies, that kind of thing, videos. And I was me and Pauline are sitting at the table, and her mother is sitting at the table, and her mother says to her, "Well, Felicia, my stupid phone won't work. What's going on with this?" And she looks at it. It's a new iPhone, and Felicia's used to a different kind of phone. And little Santana reaches up, and she goes, "Let him look at it." And he looks at it, and he hits a few buttons, and he gets it to work. Not even 4 years old yet, figured out what was going on with it. I'm like, that's some crap right there, isn't it? A 4-year-old knows more about the iPhone than they do, or I do even.
Yeah, I was
it's just wired into them.
One of the first couple thousand people to get an iPad in Northern Virginia, and I remember I was getting ready to upgrade. I had a Mac that was starting to slow down, and I was thinking about getting another Mac, and all of a sudden I saw this thing on this iPad, so I decided to wait, and then I managed to get one. One guy at Best Buy had ordered it, and then he didn't get it. So when I called, they go, "We got one," and I said, "I'll be there in 15 minutes." So I remember, the first one, I'd never seen anything like it, and this friend of mine Mike came by that night, and I told him, I said, "Man, you got to come by." I said, "I got this new iPad," and didn't know anything about it, and we just started, touching the screen and, doing, we didn't know anything, it was like every 2 or 3 minutes we discover something new about the touch, what you could do, and we were just amazed. We sat there for like 6 or 7 hours. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning before we even realized it. And I was like, "Oh my God, this thing is unbelievable. It's so easy to use." It was just intuitive, and I could see where a child could, just touching the screen, and you can figure it out. And that's the way that, this whole generation is now. And they're now going to migrate the iPad apps and iPhone apps to the Mac. And they're going to have codes where you can, the guys can convert their apps from iOS onto the Macs also.
Oh, really? Okay. I noticed that with Spotify, I tried to get that on there. I couldn't do it, but I got iHeartRadio on my Mac. I have a MacBook Pro, and I've been using that for several years. I love the thing. But, trying to
I think Spotify, you probably have to have a good subscription or something.
Right. Well, I wanted to check it out because we just got, I guess our shows through Spreaker are now on all these different formats, these podcasting formats or whatever, and iHeartRadio, we're up on there now, too.
We got on there now?
Yeah, we're on there.
Cool.
Bethany, she called me at 9:30 last night. "Dad, guess what?" And I said, "What?" She says, "You're on iHeartRadio." I said, "What?" She goes, "You and Craig are on iHeartRadio." I said, "Well, I was looking on there yesterday, and it said that it was still pending, but I guess I went. Sure enough, I was on there, and I was like, okay, cool." that and a dollar might get me a cup of coffee, but it's still kind of neat being on it.
When I'm in a car, I listen to AM, FM radio, but on the FM, the music station that comes from DC, that one uses iHeartRadio to. And some of them, I think, use Spotify instead of the way they used to do it.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of interesting, and that the radio is kind of disappearing into podcasting now. It's just going to be, I think the FM and AM thing is just, people are just going to be, streaming probably to the radios in the future,
right.
From podcasts, or podcasting services.
It has a podcasting on iHeartRadio. I was looking through it and everything. I know that Relics Radio's on there. You know, Loy's on tonight. His show's on there, and I think Beyond Sight and Sound is on there. I saw it also, and it's a program that goes through. But you know, it's neat that they, I guess, share them over. I forget what they call it. It's a I don't think we don't get any money for it or anything like that, or not that I know of, but it does send the show to these different formats so people know about the show. You know, they only carry so many shows, I think, and at, you know, like Spotify, you can, I think Spotify or...
I imagine they're all going to be making money off of it if it plays on their platform.
Oh, yeah, they need to send some of it this way now, dang it.
Well, they probably are. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm sure the monetization...
I mean, it sounds like Spreaker is kind of doing this for us, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is, because it when I was reading off this to you the other day, it was... it's a whole page of different podcasting
because
formats.
they want us on all these platforms, because then we get seen more, and then they make more money and we make more money.
Right.
But
yeah, we're up to like
20... it just makes sense, and so they'll probably just add what we're getting from the other people on.
That'd be kind of cool. The only thing I didn't really understand how to do was to get on that, like iHeartRadio, and be able to adjust settings and stuff like that on there as far as like the thumbnails and stuff like that. But I don't know if I'm able to do that or not, because I became a member of iHeartRadio just by logging in and everything, and it's, but I can't change anything on that page. I guess they just do that themselves. I don't know how that all works. So I'm still figuring it out. Of course, I'm not.
I have an app called My Tuner Radio, and it's you can basically stream any radio station, AM, FM, I think, through this thing. And one day I was kind of looking, and they had a thing for podcasts, so I just typed in Hardcore Metal Detective Radio, and it came right up. It's on there.
That's
so
cool.
It comes through that app.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We got like $25 or something in the past month and a half or something. It's still not paying for the show every month, but I was just curious to see what it would do. But it's actually doing something. It's not like these other, I used to worry about putting videos on YouTube and all that stuff. And I think Craig, you're doing the same thing I'm doing, aren't you? We're using it as a format to be able to like post to YouTube and then pull from there and put the URL on Facebook so people can see it. Am I right? Or post it right to Facebook?
Well, I share to Facebook, Twitter.
We share. That's what I mean. We're using it as a pathway to share to these other formats. That's about the only thing we use YouTube for, because people get the information from so many other different locations. Really, I don't really look. I look at your, if somebody posts up a video, I go to their Facebook page or wherever they posted it at, whether it's, Don't Tread on Me or whatever, whatever Facebook page it is, and I look at the video from there. I usually don't go to their actual YouTube channel unless it's somebody I'm not subscribed to yet, and I'll click on the YouTube thing and go over and subscribe to their channel, because I think it's if I'm watching their video, and if it's a decent video, I subscribe to it, to their channel, because it helps them out a little bit. I've had a couple guys that that wanted me to check out their channel and subscribe to it. I always try to do it whenever I see it pop up on there, because I know how it is. Craig deals with that all the time. You want to. They've made it so difficult on YouTube to progress in a positive way.
It's just one thing after another, where they're just knocking you down, and they don't even tell you what's going on until after they do everything.
That's
it's like
that's what I didn't like about it.
It's like, I don't know, a year or so ago, or less, they did this purge where they just all of a sudden you lost all these subscribers, and a lot of them it's somebody subscribed to your channel and then you subscribe to them. Both of you lost, a subscriber because of it. And I didn't even know about this. And, I was one of the YouTubers I was commenting to mention this, and I said, what? And they go, oh, no, they don't like sub for sub is what they call it. And I said, well, a lot of times, somebody's subbing to me, they got a channel themselves on metal detecting, and I subscribe to it because that's what I'm in, the metal detecting channels, and I may not watch a lot of his, at least watch one of his videos just to see what it's like. But but I've found a lot of good channels that way.
We just be supportive of the ones, that's how we.
Yeah, and I just don't, I don't see why that is a big deal. If you're just doing it as a business or something, and there are, supposedly there was ways you could actually buy subscribers, but I told people that, Google knows what's going on. They know that this is going on, and they probably can track it, They probably know the sites that are doing it, But, I could see, but I don't think that's gaming. They say it's gaming the system. And then now this thing about dislikes, they're just basically it's not going to affect anything by having a dislike. They're just going to
I think they need to have
just disregard it.
There. Well, no, they need to put it on there because some of these, in certain circumstances, I don't think it's a big deal whether they have it or not, I guess, in a way. But, if it's a stupid video or if they're lying on the video, whatever, I'll dislike it in a heartbeat. Just like I'd expect somebody to do that to ours. Well, it's like Loy's saying on here, YouTube is becoming intrusive and more and more. And yeah, exactly. And that's what I liked about Spreaker. The monetization thing was pretty much straightforward. You have people that see it, people that react to it, and you get a percentage of whatever they give you, and it's not like it's big bucks, guys. I mean, we had one show that got us $2 that day, but usually it's 30 cents, 40 cents, whatever. It's not, you may not get anything in a day. It just depends on how many people listen to the show and download the show and stuff like that, and. So it's not like you're getting.
But I think it's at least
it's
you're getting something out of it.
Right.
It's it's like when I had my YouTube channel monetized, and in 5 years I made $200. I think I got to 252, and then they screwed me out of the $52 when they demonetized everybody.
Right.
Probably saved themselves $100 million. At least probably on what they didn't have to pay people off for.
Yeah. I've never begrudged anybody making money, through metal detecting on some whatever format they're on to do that. I don't begrudge anybody. I think God bless them. I mean, I hope they make millions. I mean, there's some guys that are making really, really good money, but they're enjoying what they're doing and making money. What the heck?
But it's gotten so where a lot of these guys have to do merch, they do merchandise.
They're having to jump through hoops now is what it is.
And they have to go through Patreon and all these other different, there's a whole bunch of different, Patreon is even getting weird.
Believe me, I'd love to be able to just do radio shows and
they've ruined the
metal detecting, and that's
They were, there was the one I'm on, they were giving away stickers and stuff, and doing a random number on the computer, and there's about 119 of us, and all of a sudden, and we've been doing it for 6 or 8 months, and it was not like you were getting a huge prize, maybe 20 to 30 bucks at the most, was being, and this was, most of us were giving him $5 or $10 a month, and I didn't really care about the prizes that much. I just like supporting the channel. But all of a sudden, he says, they were threatening to take the channel down because of this. They were doing a lottery or something, and it isn't a lottery. That's not what it is. And then they said you had to do it for the whole channel, not just the people on Patreon. And he's got 16, 17,000 subscribers on the one channel.
Right.
It just didn't work that way, and so I think what he's doing now, he sends everybody stickers that are on, Patreon when he does it.
And see, that costs money too, not only for the stickers, but posting them. And, I thought about sending out, like T-shirts and stuff like that. And, Craig, to be honest with you, I can't afford it. I mean, it when you think about, being a Patreon, if you had 100 people and you had to send them shirts all the time and you weren't getting, you had to make it more cost effective for them to be subscriber to support you. And at $1 a month or whatever, it just, I don't know, it just seemed like more aggravation than it was worth to mess with all that when I could just do it on this kind of format here or through Facebook. But I don't understand how they're getting people that donate a lot more money is what it amounts to. Because, just shipping stuff out, is like $15 for a flat rate box now to put a T-shirt in. Maybe you can get away with using the envelope for $5.99 or whatever it is, but
well, there's a YouTube channel called UFO Seekers, and he shows the Patreons and how much they're giving at the end of the show a lot of times, and some of the people are giving $150 a month.
Well, that's great.
There's a lot of people giving $150 a month, but the average person, from what I'm hearing, is giving about $5 a month, $3 to $5. It looks like there's a 1, 3, 5, and 10 is what a lot of them are doing.
And I think it's great people show support like that. I mean, I thought about doing something like that, having a $1,000 a month one put on there, but make it so that they are getting, and they usually do the not prizes, but what you will do, like just use it as metal detecting. For $1,000 a month, I'll come out and hunt with you on your sites, invite you to my place to hunt. We'll anybody who does this particular level will do a trip overseas to the UK, and your flight is paid for, or something like that. I could see, making it worth their while to be investing in you that kind of money. But that's a lot of pressure too. That can take a hobby and make it a job real quick. As far as you got to think about anything I've ever done that I've enjoyed doing. You've got to be careful. There's a fine line between fun and work when it comes to it. You could take something you really like and make it not fun anymore. And I think that, there's been some in the past that have gotten into that in the metal detecting hobby where they love metal detecting, they love doing what they do, but when it becomes a business, when you have time restraints put on you and stuff that's expected of you that's over and beyond, it takes the fun out of actually doing the hobby because you're worried about the business side of it. It's kind of like when we were selling blister metal detectors. I mean, Craig and I were really into it. It became stressful. It became not fun because we were dealing with it wasn't the customers. I mean, customers were great. Our problem was the business side of it. And Craig can remember me going out of my mind a couple times, just ready just to throw hammers at people. And it was I was going to say it was a business side. I was a tadpole in a pool of sharks. You're dealing with multi-billion-dollar companies, and I'm just a regular guy, and I don't like BS. I just a handshake works for me.
The detector business is it's pretty
vicious.
Cutthroat.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it. When you're a customer, you don't realize it, but when you're
no, I mean
going up against these people, and it's like recently I was asked to, get into this a team thing with another detector company, a major one actually.
Yeah.
And I was given a bunch of phone numbers and stuff, and they were going to, hook me up with some equipment and all this stuff. And I started thinking about it, and I thought, man, one guy had called me and was telling me he was on the team and he was trying to get me on it, but he was asking me for help, and he said they were making me do all these different things, and it's starting to pressure me,
right.
And I said, I bet you I know what it is. And he goes, what? And I go, they want you to do a YouTube channel and get 1,000 subscribers. And he goes, oh my God. He goes, you're right.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
There's always a flip side
I've
of it.
seen this. I said, I know a bunch of guys. I'm friends with them on, on Facebook and YouTube. And, they told me about what's going on. And I know exactly what's going on. And there's people that are jealous. They want to be on these teams.
Right.
And you're not getting a lot out of it. I mean, you get maybe, if you're lucky, you get maybe $1,000 detector or more, but, you got to do a lot of work for that.
Yeah. Well, I dealt with it before I even got involved with it.
But my thing is, I don't want to be stuck, I'd have to only use that detector and only do videos with that detector.
Right.
And
sign it on your name.
So I don't want to do that. I want to have fun, and I want to do what I want to do. I don't want to be involved in that kind of. I just decided, I don't want to do that. I want to have fun, and I don't want all the drama anymore on that. I'm switching between the Blitz tool and the Equinox back and forth, and I take both machines out, and they both got strengths and weaknesses, and I'm finding stuff with both of them. So I found I just put out a video today I went and used kind of Equinox settings on the Blitz tool. And I lowered the discrimination on the iron, and I ran the machine more softly, and I used auto ground balance, kind of like tracking is on the Equinox. And all of a sudden, I'm popping stuff left and right. Well, not left and right, but I mean, popped a lot of nice, cool stuff out of the ground that it shocked me, because I had both the Blitz tools and the Nautilus and the XP Deus and all these machines over every inch of the yard. I know I've been over every inch at least 5 times.
It's not that big of a property.
Well, it's 8/10 of an acre, and
but you know where you've been at, So.
But I've been here over 2 years,
Right.
I'm going into my 3rd year, and it was starting to slim down. But there's so much iron, and
right.
There's so many chunks of coal and crap in the ground.
Unique situation.
It's a difficult situation, and I was trying to power the machines, and I'm finding if I lower the power a little bit, it actually penetrates a little better into the into that carbon that's in the ground.
Right.
I was amazed at how much stuff the Equinox, did. So I decided, I was starting to slow down with that machine. I wasn't finding hardly anything, and I decided to go back over it and use different settings with the Blitz tool. And all of a sudden, I get an Indian head. I get my 30th bullet out of the yard. Hadn't dug a bullet in, almost a year. Bullet's an easy target usually to, dig even a foot deep. But this one was like maybe, 7 to 10 inches deep. I couldn't really tell because I just, dug the hole out. But, it was in a spot where I'd been, a whole bunch of times. And then I did another setting, and I come back over, and about 10 feet away, I get an Indian head penny, about 8 inches deep, a little bit on edge. But
I see on here that not to stop you here. I was looking at Lloyd posted up. We had a drama on the comments on our scheduled Schofield show. So it's posted on YouTube, and I pinned the post. That's another thing, the drama from the haters, or the trolls, I call them. Deal with all that YouTube and Facebook, and Lloyd, I'm in the same, I know what you're talking about. I mean, Craig, I used to get so mad, man. People, not everybody. You always have those couple that are just annoying people, but most, I'd say 95% of the people I dealt with all the time on there are pretty positive people, regular guys, whatever, gals, whatever. But we've had death threats. We've had, oh God, Craig, how many times have you been yelled at for nothing? Banned from forums, banned from this, what the hell did we do to you? It's like we get along with most everybody. We're not, not out to, I don't know. They made it.
I've slowed down on Facebook, and I turn off the notifications, and just every once in a while look at them to see if I want to respond to anything. I don't know. It's like I just get bombarded now. It's just,
There's been several guys in the hobby.
I think I had 4,000 some odd friends. I didn't even know I had that many. I was like, good God. I went in and just all these foreigners that I can't even pronounce their names. I just deleted all of them. You know? I hadn't heard from them anyway because they can't speak English. So I said,
well,
some of these people went back, 5 years or so, and they might even be dead. They might not even be around anymore. But I just, a lot of this. The other thing I noticed is a lot of if the profile had like a coin or a gem or something, that meant they were selling stuff. So I went through all the ones that were selling, gems and artifacts and coins and stuff, and just deleted every one of them.
I see a metal detector or somebody holding a metal detector or with obviously relics they found. Boom, they're in. I'm just, subscribe, whatever, friend them, whatever you got to do.
That's what I do.
We were talking, I talked to a guy that was involved in Oak Island and stuff like that. We're friends on Facebook and stuff, and he had the same thing happen. People, stalking him, threatening his family, people driving around his house. I haven't had that happen. Bring it on. I live out in the middle of the sticks. You want to drive by my house, that's fine. I got guns. Guns live here. I don't worry about it. We had one fellow that, oh my God, he would just attack me for no reason whatsoever. Never did find out what I had said or did or how his little feelings got hurt or whatever the deal was. But man, I was like over that stuff. I told Craig, I'm so pissed right now. All the stuff I've done to help this guy out, and he does this to me. I'm done. Craig's like, you got to calm down. There's only one person. I said, I know, but I'm so pissed right now. I'm one of those, fight or flight guys. I'm gonna fight my, you attack me for no reason, I'm gonna come back at you. But I know it's not the adult thing to do, so I had to keep my mouth shut, and that drives me crazy even more. I can't stop talking. Mm-hmm. Craig always tells me, you got to calm down. He's like my voice of reason. So, but the funny thing was that Craig knew the guy and hunted with the guys for years. So it just, and it's just like,
he gives me a dislike on every YouTube channel. I know it's him.
Oh yeah.
Because I only get one. Sometimes I get two, but I get one every single time for the last couple of years.
Oh,
I know it's him.
Lois on here saying all the sexy girls overseas are after Craig. I said, yeah, Craig has his very own. We used to call it the Blissful Groupie Fan Club.
Yeah. Well, somebody said, "Man, that's terrible." I said, "No, I get a view out of it."
There you go. You got a view.
Give me a view.
Yeah, it's definitely a different world when you come from a business angle. I love the hobby. I mean, I love everybody that I've met. I probably would have never met in my in life or whatever. I made a damn good friend in Craig. I mean, me and Craig have been friends since 2011, and heck, we didn't even meet face to face for 4 years, Craig? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we just people say you can't make a friend over the internet. My man, I'll tell you what. It's like Mark Hoover and Mike Miller, and you guys hear me talk about these guys. These are guys, like Ohio Relic Hunter, great guy. I mean, he's always supportive, always friendly, always, has information, always helps out. I mean, what more can you ask for out of a friend, And, it's just a lot of the Swazi Searcher, and, Loy's helped us out many times, and we've talked, Craig talked to him and everything else, and you can have friendships. I mean, I have more friends through
it was funny
you guys than I do anywhere else, So.
It was when I first got on the internet, and I was trying to navigate to different sites, and I had one of the guys that was a friend of mine was from India, and he was a big tech guy over there in India, and so I kind of reached out to him and asked him how to get on this site, and he showed me how to get on it. And I'm sitting there going, "This is crazy." I'm sitting there talking to a guy in India, getting him to help me, and and this was God, this must have been, I don't know, 2011 or something, 2009.
Yeah.
Something like that, you know. But, you know, it's amazing that, you know, the whole world's interconnected now. You know, it's, except it seems like some of the places are starting to, you know, some of the bad countries are trying to close down the internet.
Oh,
because they don't want anybody they don't want their own people to know how bad it is, you know.
It's a crazy world we live in, guys. It definitely is when it comes to the internet. So many good things have happened because
it's a whole new
always
world. It's like
you
said about friends, you know, you do have friends on the internet.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a different type of friendship, but it's still, you have a connection. And, you know, it's just expanded. It's gotten better to me. I mean, you know, and it, you know, it's like, it's even strengthened more since I've met some of the people, you know. I've actually met them face to face, and, you know, now I, you know, interact with them all the time.
I can't even give I can give a list, but it'd take an hour long. I mean, you know, there's Evan and Sam and Howard Hewitt, and just go down through a whole list of people that I probably would have never had any kind of a social, you know, friendship or anything like that with, and these are all people that are like-minded and everything, and we love doing the same thing. If anything else, we may not like each other's political views or what we do for a living or whatever, but metal detecting is where, and treasure hunting and, you know, whatever, this outdoor adventure kind of thing really links us all together a lot, and it's a good thing. There's not very many positive things in this world most of the time, so when you find one, grab a hold of it. You know, I told my daughter that. I said, you know, not everything in this world's good. When you find something good, you know, grab a hold of it, and wait. You know, hopefully the bad times don't come around too soon. You know what I mean? And with metal detecting, it's always been a pretty positive ordeal, I should say, except when it came to the business. But even that wasn't bad, Craig. It's a lot of, I guess it's just.
It was only a handful of people that ruined it. You know, like, I mean, there was some. It's like, you know, I've heard over the years you meet all these great people, you know, metal detecting.
Yeah. Yep.
And I've met quite a few snakes and weasels also, you know, but luckily they're not as prevalent as the good people are. But, you know, it doesn't take very many people to ruin the hobby. You know, it's like,
I think it's why we get so hard on them too.
I had to divorce people that I hunted with because it, you know, and just, you know, I just told one guy I'm hunting by myself from now on, you know, and he was devastated. In fact, he quit metal detecting afterwards.
Yep.
But it was just too much drama. Well, it was several people.
Yep.
The one that gives me a dislike all the time, I dumped him twice.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and for everything.
I shouldn't have never, you know, taken him up and gone back with him the second time, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, just I thought, you know, maybe it was, you know, different, but the guy he was even worse than before. It was, I don't know, you know, some of these people, it's like, you know, it's like metal detecting is the most important thing in life, and they, you know, they got to be the best, or, you know, I don't know. It's weird. And this guy, his body's falling apart. He can't hardly metal detect anymore. And,
right.
You know, it's, you know, but it's so important to his life that's the only thing he's into, you know.
Yeah.
I like metal detecting a lot, but I like other things too, you know, but I don't take it that seriously. You know, I don't have to be the best. All I care about is having fun and, you know, getting lucky and finding something good, you know.
Yeah. Some people,
and meeting all these, you know,
anything. You know,
I've always liked it. And if you run into a bunch of drama, just start hunting by yourself, you know. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of lucky. I met this guy, Jeff, and he was having a heart problem, and he called me the other day, and he's been taking this medication, and now he's ready to hunt again. Mm-hmm. So we met for lunch the other day, and he's, you know, talking about, you know, all these different places he wants to hunt now, and so the only trouble is it's greened up like crazy.
Oh, I know. Some of the guys on here, Kingston was just saying that, Kingston 1816, they were saying all his fields are all planted and stuff. He can't get on them, and he's looking for spots to hunt. And yeah, this time of year sucks for a lot of people. I mean,
it's almost we don't have so much farmland as we got grazing land out here, and you know, there's areas where they'll be, you know, cutting the grass and stuff, and then there'll be, you know, areas where the cattle will eat the grass down to the ground, and we'll be able to get back in there. But this time of the year is just not, you know, there's so many ticks and bugs. I was talking to the guys with the stealth diggers, and there's so many ticks in the woods this year. It's unbelievable up there.
I was shocked.
It seems like every time you have a rougher winter than the one before, you get more ticks or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's like,
I was surprised. I was able to detect everywhere that I was. I mean, I expected the grass to, you know, to be knee high and everything else. And man, it's great out there for me. I'm kind of flabbergasted but it'd been so dry this year too, Craig. We hadn't had any rain. But yeah, where you're at, I know how Tennessee gets, and I've hunted in a lot of these states. But yeah, the ticks and the chiggers and the mosquitoes and I imagine you guys are getting pounded with them right now.
Yeah. We're getting like lows of 52 degrees, you know, and this morning it was like 54 degrees and got up to about 74 today.
Oh wow, that was 90 degrees outside today for me.
We've had one 90-degree day in the last 30 days, and the rest of them been just, you know, unseasonably cool. Just great.
3 days ago I was out hunting, and to be honest with you, I take my keys out of my pocket, you know, leave my truck window down a little bit, but my keys, my cell phone, even my wallet goes in the truck. Because, man, you're talking between, you know, like 90 degrees in the shade. You can imagine what it's like in a field, man. You drink a lot of water and everything else. I've come back, one time I didn't do that. My wallet came back, and I have a leather wallet. It was just soaked. It was like somebody threw it in a bucket of water. I'm like, oh my God. You know, it's nasty. I'm like, shoot, I'm not, you know, I don't carry anything but my fine bag and my detector. Even then I took a tube sock, and I cut the toe out of it, slide it up my arm so my arm can go in the arm cuff right there, because that's the only thing I never liked about the bliss tool was, and whites for that matter, the whites, you know, MXT, whatever, the control box is right underneath the armrest, arm cuff. So you sweat and all that, you know, whatever, the sweat goes down onto the control boxes and stuff. So I extended one out on my bliss tool. I put an extension on the back to move the control box back farther. I mean, when you're sweating that bad and you can wring your shirt out and literally wring out water, I mean, that's dangerous. You got to be careful about, you know, I always tell you guys, man, heat stroke is a real deal, and it will knock you to your knees. I've had it before. It's not a fun experience, and you get to know the warning signs of it, but stay hydrated, and, you know, just be careful, because, you know, you get that kind of heat, and I don't care how used to it you think you are. I mean, it can get you, you know, relatively quick.
Yeah, I've had it a few times playing tennis in the past, you know, and 100-degree day, and you know, and I remember one time, you know, you get dizzy, and you know, you can't even hardly think, you know, it's like crazy.
That's what got me, was
it's like your brain is fried. You know, it's like I guess you're overheated. It's almost like you got a fever.
Well, when you stop, what I always said is, when you're sweating a lot and you stop sweating, when your clothes feel like they are literally just so waterlogged they're sticking to you, and then you stop sweating, you're right there at the cusp of going into like what they call a heat stroke. And it's, you know, it will make you kind of, you lose your balance. You can't think straight, like Craig said. You know, you start not thinking right, and you know, the key is to figure it out before that happens. Take a break, drink some water, and you can stay hunting. Just don't push. And that's my problem. When I get out there hunting, I want to hunt. You know, I mean, and I had to slow myself down and take breaks. You know, I'm not getting any younger. I mean, I'm hitting 50 next year. You know, still a pup compared to Craig, and Lloyd, we all know he was born in 1861.
Well, I used to try to make people, especially guys that were better than me playing tennis when I first started. I was in better shape, and I would just try to make them die. You know, try to give them heat stroke. You know,
when our bodies don't work, knees hurt and everything. That's what people are saying.
making the guy run corner to corner on every shot, you know, and sometimes I wouldn't even try to win the first set. I would just make them run. Yeah. And then I wouldn't have to do anything. The next two sets, they couldn't even move.
Yeah.
But I've seen that happen in the woods, you know, where it's, you know, in Virginia, you know, I don't know about, you know, other parts. I know probably in Florida it's like that, but it just gets so humid sometimes. And in Virginia, it's just either like 90 degrees and 80% humidity, and you just, you know, clammy all day long going through the woods.
Oh, I'm clammy nothing. We walk outside.
All day long.
Take you can cut the humidity with like a spoon, like, you know. I mean, it's just hits you. It's so heavy. It feels like the atmosphere is so heavy and hot, especially right after it rains. You know, rain and that sun will come out. Oh, it just wipes you out. Even when you're used to it. I had, you know, my buddy next door come over to my house. He's from New Jersey, and we all sitting on the porch having a beer. And he come over. We sat down. We had like two or three beers, and he was out. Boom, passed right out on my porch on the floor. I'm freaking out. I'm like, what the hell, dude? You know, and trying to wake him up and everything. And I realized that, you know, he was hot. I was putting water on him. Called his wife, and, you know, and everything. Turns out that, you know, it's almost like a heat stroke from sitting down drinking beer. But he's not used to drinking alcohol. That's another thing people don't realize. You don't come down to Florida from being up north and get out on a fishing boat and sit there and pound a couple beers if you're not from here, because it will bite you. That alcohol will spit you right off. But yeah, he was okay and everything. You know, about a half an hour later, he was finally getting coherent. But that was from sitting on a porch. You imagine go out there. He goes, well, I was going to go and do some work in the yard and have a beer or two. I said, I don't even do that. I'm waiting until the end of the day when I'm done working, I'll have a beer. But but yeah,
I did this tennis, you know, camps and stuff for 20 some years, and you know, it'd be, you know, so humid you'd be dripping on the ground, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember when we used to have to change grips and put like wraps on, and then they got into where they had these rubberized grips, and all you had to do was just wipe it off with a towel. But you know, that was a lot better. But I was used to that kind of heat, you know, because I lived in Virginia my whole life, you know, and I ran in and I played sports in it.
Right.
Yeah, and I was outside, and the same with metal detecting. It just didn't bother me, you know. And some people would not go out at all in the summer, you know, too hot. Snakes, bugs, bees, you know. I'll go, yeah, they're out there, but I'm going to find those relics.
You know? I went outside yesterday.
But you know, we had these kids from Sweden one time that came there, and the second day they were crying because the humidity was so bad. It just there's no humidity in Europe. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like it's dry over there or something, or at least in Sweden, and they never felt. They said it wasn't the heat; it was the humidity, and they were just they were in physical pain over it. You know, they were practically crying. You know, they were teenagers even, but they just couldn't take it. And after 3 or 4 days, they were making it half a day, and then at lunchtime they just that was it.
Right,
and
you can't push them. There's a lot of kids that kids can die of heat.
There's another guy that
football players and stuff.
He was a former professional player, and he was from the Netherlands, and he had a big tennis training camp in South Africa, and he lasted about 2 weeks, and the humidity just fried him. And he used to stand there and look at me and say, he goes, "You look normal, like it's not even like this. It's this heater and humidity bothering you at all?" And I go, "No." And he goes, "How can that be?" And I go, "I don't know, except I'm used to it. My body's adapted to it or something. I don't know. And part of it's is your mind. I just don't let it bother me. When it's hot, it's hot. But it just, I don't know. I put it out of my mind. If it's that bad, but." It's just, I think that some people in some parts of the world, they get acclimated to a certain, climate, and then when they get to a different climate that's totally different, they're in trouble.
Right.
I don't know if I could stand it in the desert, with dry air. Well, I'll tell you, I went to California.
But anyway, go
I
ahead.
went to California for the Nationals when I ran track, and I was running in total humidity in Virginia when I ran, and I go to California and it's dry as a bone out there, and I go out for a run, and we were there for I think a week, and then we had the meet, and then so I decided I wasn't going to train real hard. I was already in shape, but I needed to at least do a few sprints and stuff. So I went out, and it felt like it was a nice day out, and I start running, and all of a sudden after about 10 sprints, I'm like, my chest is starting to hurt. And so these two guys come up to me and they go, man, he goes, you think you should be running? It's 104 out here. And I'm going, nah, it can't be 104 degrees. Doesn't even feel, I'm not even hardly sweating. And they go, it's low humidity. It's like real low. And I was like, oh no wonder my lungs are burning.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
but
that's bad.
Yeah, it was a total dry heat. And when they ran the meet, they ran it at 7:30 at night, or about 7 o'clock at night. And there was this real nice breeze that came off the Pacific about that time of the night.
Yeah.
But I was in Sacramento. But it was, when you were, this was like in June, and you're driving there and the ground was just baked. Every piece of grass was brown. It was like a desert. I was like, God, this is weird.
Yeah, I was just going to sit over here on the chat here say we're going to go for the record of over 3 hours tonight, and I can't do it tonight, guys. I was just going to tell Craig we're probably going to have to wrap it up.
Oh, I didn't even know it was 10 already. I thought
it's 10:08 right now.
God.
I got to get her hooked up on the machine and everything tonight. She's probably out there kind of stir crazy because she has to be on that thing for 8 hours. So we'll try to get her on it, early. But yeah, I'm probably going to wrap it up tonight, guys. It's been a good show, and thanks, guys, for being on the chat and everything. What is he saying here? Wake up, Pauline. We'll be here until midnight. Yeah, no kidding. Bill Mars. There's like a whole nother realm on this chat. I like to comment about it. As
well, that's the other thing that that you couldn't do on the radio.
Right.
You couldn't comment. You couldn't chat with people. You couldn't even comment really. Or it was hard to. You could call in, I guess, on the radio.
Yeah.
Some of the shows.
Our Bill Marsh Lloyd said he was going to call in, keep the show going, and then Bill Marsh puts on there the phone number, and he goes, and Lloyd says, no, I have to climb 2 flights of stairs to get to the studio. And he started laughing. I don't blame you, Lloyd. 2 flights of stairs, that's a pain. My sister-in-law and they have a house. It's a stilt house out by the ocean, and it's like I couldn't see bringing groceries up 10 trips up those stairs every time I came home. Ain't gonna happen. I got enough problem with 5 steps. That's why I put a ramp in so we can walk up a ramp. I'm getting lazy in my old age.
My house is kind of weird. My front door is like maybe 10 feet from the sidewalk, and I only have to go up 1 step, just half a step actually, to get on the porch. Mm-hmm. So there's no steps. It's just
must
right
be
there,
nice, brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll wrap up the show tonight, guys. Be sure to like and follow and tell a friend about us, because we just kind of do the show just like the rest of the people on Spreaker right there. It's word of mouth, telling everybody when they're on and everything. But we have Loy's on there from Relics Radio. They're on Spreaker, and Beyond Sight and Sound, and Relic Roundup, All Metal Mode. Those are just the ones that come to the top of my head right there. But we're on Spreaker, and there's other formats too. I mean, they have sports and news and music and whatever, arts and crafts, I'm sure, or whatever. I've seen a lot of different stuff, even one about microbrewing and brewing your own beer and stuff like that, probably winemaking, whatever you're into. So
yeah, there's some, a lot of companies are using it for advertising now, and some people got millions of subscribers or listeners.
Yeah.
So it's almost everybody, all the big tech people are starting to incorporate podcasting in because they know people are into that.
Yeah.
So it can just add to your advertising and getting the word out and stuff. So.
Yeah, make sure you follow these
But,
shows too. If you like a show, follow it because it doesn't get them anything more than knowing that you like their show, and that's what me and Craig and we're up to like 20, almost 24,000 followers, 23 something. It's great. I mean, it's nice to know that people are listening, and it puts a little spark to make us do the show, try to do the show better, try to do things better, try to talk about different topics, more topics, whatever. It's just nice. It's nice to see those statistics. Oh, if I can talk right, go up there a little bit. So be sure to like and follow the shows and stuff, and show them love. That's the way I look at it. So, but we'll talk to you again on Thursday. We're on every Thursday and Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll talk to you then. Get out there, keep digging, and God bless.